We are going to bring on Paul from Sigma Prime to talk about how you can think about practical security measures for being in Web3. That includes your personal security, how you can think about securing smart contracts, your websites, just your organizations, and everything in between. So without further ado, please welcome Paul on stage.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So my name is Paul Hauner, co-founder and director of Sigma Prime, proudly Australian crypto company. This speak was actually written by Mehdi Zawali, also a co-founder and director of Sigma Prime. Unfortunately, he has COVID at the moment, which is very 2020 of him, so he's not here. I'll be giving it instead, lucky you. Alrighty. So today we're going to be covering a whole bunch of topics, not just like how to secure your smart contract, because that's not all of web security, Web3 security. Instead, we're going to be looking at how you can secure you, the founder, like is in yourself, your infrastructure that runs your Web3 products, and also the other, like the software that you write, and look at how you can do it, like when it's time to do an external review. All right, so Sigma Prime, we're mainly two facets to the company. One side is security assessment, so we do EVM, non-EVM, smart contract reviews. We look at all sorts of software to do with crypto, like we do clients, like blockchain implementations. We look at networking implementations, crypto. We'll do L1s, L2 bridges. We do a bunch of zero knowledge stuff. We've built fuzzers for a bunch of different protocols. We also do red teaming and social engineering, which is coming in and looking at the security of your organization. We've also built Lighthouse, which is an open source Rust implementation of the Ethereum consensus protocol. So we're deeply involved in the merge. And our software produces just under a third of Ethereum blocks today. So very proud of that as well. We're based mostly in Australia. Well, we're headquartered in Australia, but we have a lot of people all over the world, like most organizations now. So if chances are we're on your continent. We have a lot of amazing, beautiful clients, Synthetics, of course, Ethereum Foundation, Chainlink. We've learned a lot from these people, and hopefully they've learned a lot from us as well. We've done over 180 security assessments over 7 years. We started in 2017 doing security assessments. 14 full-time security engineers, about just under 40 people in the company in total, over 2,000 vulnerabilities reported. So we're going to look at how to secure you, the founder. You don't need to be a founder. You can just want to be a person that gets secured, but yeah, it talks for founders. So if you're a founder, you're a target. That might be because you've made a whole bunch of money from your successful business operation and people want to steal it from you. Or it might be because you have a lot of goodwill, like a social media platform that people can use and abuse. And there's not a lot. When you become a founder, someone doesn't give you an info pack of how to be secure. So hopefully we can start with that. So the first thing to think about is cellular security. So that's your mobile phone. More importantly, your mobile phone number. It's the most important piece of ID you didn't know you had. So the ability to answer calls on your phone, read text on your phone, and send text from your phone generally identifies you as far as a lot of people are concerned. So there's a thing called SIM swaps, which has happened to a lot of people in the industry. Even Vitalik has been SIM swapped. Basically, someone says, they call up, pretend to be you, say, I lost my phone, I lost my SIM, can you please transfer my phone number to this phone that I have, the attacker has? All of a sudden, the attacker now answers your phone. So you need to be very careful of this. What you should be doing is not using services that use your phone number to identify you. So I'll send you a text with a code, enter the code. That's not a good idea. It's not safe from SIM swaps. You can look at using a high security carrier. You can also place a note or a lock on your carrier account, which is not bulletproof because basically you're hoping that the person in the phone data center pays attention to the note and doesn't let you get SIM swapped. And I don't know, I don't really trust people in phone provider data centers. So Twitter/X is a big part of crypto. So you should be using a unique and complex password for your Twitter account, your X account. Use a password manager, great idea. Make sure it doesn't get reset to like an old Hotmail account from your teenage years that's completely insecure. Go and check for inactive sessions. You don't want your old mobile phone. It's in the bottom drawer to have access to your X account. You put it in the bin. Now the guy at the tip has control over your tweets. And remove your phone number from Twitter. Twitter will sometimes use your phone number to try and identify you, even though it seems like it wouldn't. But if you just take your phone number out of Twitter, there's no reason for it to have it. You'll be protected against that as well. You also want to be configuring two-factor authentication. This goes for everything, but don't use SMS-based because phone numbers aren't secure. Revoke access from third-party apps, delegated apps, enable password reset protection. This is just a little tick box in the settings, and that will, like you can see here, we've got like without password reset protection, it gives you like a really nice hint here to what email it is, and then with it, it's just like tell me what your email is. So it just makes it a little bit harder for people to try and reset your X account. I feel like I slipped this. Did I skip a slide then? Sorry, 1 second. Telegram. All right. So Telegram, it'd be great if we all use Signal, but we don't. So we've got to secure Telegram. Two-factor. Hide your phone number. You don't want people to call you. Also, any information that an attacker has can convince other people that they know you or that they are you to other people. Disable peer-to-peer calling. This is where you can like call directly between devices, not through Telegram servers, which sound great. It sounds great, but it reveals your IP address to people. Delete inactive sessions and have like an expiry on messages. So if you say stupid things in the past, those things don't come back to haunt you. That's great for all aspects of life. Discord, two-factor. Understand how the security permissions in your Discord works. You don't want your Discord getting taken over and scammers, like pumping crap in there. Braid protection, use moderation bots, use verification levels to try and make it so it's hard for people just to like pop out of nowhere and start pumping crap into your Discord. Google, so this is like Google Apps, Google Docs, these kind of things. Two-factor, of course. Hide your personal information. Anything that you leak about yourself is something that people can use to convince other people that they are you or convince you that they are somebody else that you know. These are all bad. And consider removing your recovery methods. Personally, I just have all of my recovery methods disabled in my Gmail account, except for there's like a code. It can give you a code that you can use to reset. I just write that code down on a piece of paper and put it somewhere secret. In terms of the organization, you want to be hardening your email policy, disable read receipts. This leaks information about your organization. Automatic forwarding, for instance, can make outside emails appear legitimate. SPF and DKM is like a signing scheme for preventing people from pretending to be you on the internet. Disable unnecessary services, things that you don't use that are enabled are just a risk. Deleting sessions, and there's advanced protection program as well, which is like something you can opt into, but it will affect usability. So if you're like a journalist uncovering state secrets, I highly recommend that. But if you're in like an early stage startup that's still flying under the radar, it's probably not worth it. Infrastructure. All right, so we're going to talk now about all the things that is around your Web3 business that might not be your core smart contracts. So smart contract security is only a subset, and if that's all you focus on, you might get popped through some really boring Web 2 way that you weren't even thinking about. So DDoS, dynamic denial of service, this is where people spin up botnets and then just hammer your website with requests. This happens in crypto. These are screenshots from the F security telegram. This is happening to Ethereum projects. People will try to extort you, ask for a ransom, or it might be part of some more complicated attack. Ways that you can prevent these is use a CDN. So something like Cloudflare. This will generally make your website faster for your users. Also makes it really hard for people to take it down. You can also go serverless, which of course means that serverless means that just instead of one server, there's hundreds of servers and you don't know where they are. But these have all of the big cloud providers' DDoS prevention built into it, so they're pretty resistant from DDoS attacks. If you are running servers, which you probably have to do, keep them up to date. Block your SSH port from IPs that don't need access to it if you can. Blocking ports. It's really easy for accidentally expose Docker services. So look at your firewalls on your host. Consider using firewalls at your cloud provider level. Consider using hardware firewalls. Just put firewalls everywhere. Things like fail to ban can protect your SSH access from brute force. Blocking remote root and then having different account levels for people can help protect an attacker from getting in. That makes it hard for them to escalate. And use SSH keys, not passwords. So looking at software security. So this is the software that you are making that may not include smart contracts either. So you've got bridges, you've got relays, you've got automated market makers, You've got websites, you've got like APIs, like you've just got so much attack surface in your Web3 organization that you might not have thought about. At Sigma Prime, we look at all of these things, but we encourage you to think about them as well. So GitHub is a good one. So for GitHub, you want to be enforcing multi-factor for all users. You're going to have to tell your users not to use their phone-based authentication as well. Protected branches, so just don't let anybody push to the main branch of your main GitHub repo. Require a PR review for it, require a PR request, or just give it the privilege to a couple of people. You can enable, you can enforce commits to be signed. Require PR reviews, so that means that if somebody wants to merge a bad PR in, now it requires 2 bad people rather than 1 bad person or 2 compromised people. Don't commit secrets, so like API tokens, private keys, you don't want them in your repos, obviously. GitHub has a little feature to scan your pushes to try and detect private information in your pushes, so the push will get refused before it even makes it into the repo. You want to turn that on. And padding obfuscation is an interesting one as well when you're doing PR reviews. So let's have a quick look. So we have a smart contract here. ERC20 looks pretty simple. We've got a balance of function here. Pretty straightforward, right? There's an empty line there. You know, who cares? Could be nothing, right? Oh, wait. That wasn't a blank line. It was actually just a whole bunch of spaces and tabs, and behind it is hidden this malicious code. So on the GitHub UI, it's pretty easy to forget to scroll right and see this. So we've seen developers miss this and like basically this code get introduced to applications. So be aware of this. Your CI is also something you should be considering. So a lot of people use GitHub Actions for testing and deployment. It's actually pretty complicated, and you should really be thinking about it. You've got to be aware that all the dependencies that you bring into your program are going to be present when you're building, when you're testing, and when you're building release artifacts. You should be restricting who can run workflows. So obviously you don't want just random people from the internet triggering release builds. You also don't want random people from the internet being able to trigger CI in a way that exposes secrets. So think about how you use secrets in your GitHub Actions and try to follow GitHub's best practices rather than going off piste and just like, you know, hacking things together. You want to be cautious of submodules, of course. Yeah, securing CI is really tricky, especially if you're using self-hosted runners as well. That's something we deal with a lot at Sigma Prime. And yeah, just thinking about like if somebody can run, if a random person can run a PR to trigger GitHub Actions on one of your machines, think about what they can do to persist something through to the next time it's used, which might be building a release artifact. So yeah, got to think quite hard about GitHub. Next is external assessment readiness. So you, as a founder, when is it time for you to start getting a company like Sigma Prime or one of our great industry colleagues to look at your software? You can see the word auditors crossed out here. That's what most people call it, but we try to avoid it. Audit tends to infer that there is like some set of laws, like tax law, and we're analyzing you and saying, yes, you do. You abide by the laws. You are okay. You are safe. That is not what we're doing. Safe doesn't exist. All we can do is approximate it, approach it. So we use assessment or reviews rather than audit. So we recommend that everybody documents all of the things. So we'd like to see system overview. We want to understand the system and what it looks like to you. Include diagrams. We want to know big design choices you've made. It might help us get up to the speed with the application quicker, which means we can spend more time finding bugs rather than figuring things out. It also gives us a chance to miss some bad assumptions in your design choices. We want to know the known restrictions and limitations of your application, something really important to think about, like where does this app, like what can it do and what can't or shouldn't it do? Because pushing that boundary is usually where we find bugs. We want to know why you're using particular dependencies, who can do what in the application, like who are the users, who are the different roles that you've thought about in the application, what shouldn't be able to do. And if you have a formal specification, that is also great as well. All these things are great for security assessors to help us get up to speed and understand the application, and I assure you that you'll learn something by writing them yourself as well. We are big fans of comments in code. There's some people that like to keep their code like a Zen garden. No comments, you know, the code should be able to comment it itself. And that might be the case in very small isolated things, like if you're writing a small cryptography library, maybe like throwing in a whole bunch of comments is like not super useful. But as soon as it gets to any scale, we really recommend adding in comments. It helps us. And I know as a developer myself, like the amount of times that I write code and then I go to comment it and I'm like, oh, actually my code isn't anything like what I'd expected to do. So please comment your code. Should you be testing your own smart contracts before you get a review? Yes, you should be. There's a few different types of unit tests. You've got positive unit tests. This is testing the things that you know the application should be able to do. We've got negative unit tests, and this is handling things that you don't think the application should be able to do. This is usually the hardest part for developers to do, that is figuring out what people will do with the application that they shouldn't be doing with it, and I'm going to stop them from doing with it. So it's very important to try and think adversarially about your own program. Integration testing, so how your program fits in the landscape of all the other programs it works with. This is great to write before you get a review because obviously it's great regression testing, and it also helps us to understand how it interacts, and it gives us a base environment to start testing from. And you want to be testing all the time. So you want to test, during development, but you want to keep testing after you've made it public because, that's when there's money on the line. There's also bonus points out there for formal verification and fuzz testing. You can test yourself. It's really easy. Hard Hat, Brownie, Foundry, lots of options for it. If you're writing smart contracts, you should know how to test them. When should you consider getting external review? When you're ready for feedback. So once the program's it doesn't have to be done. It's when you need to get feedback. You can get us in at kind of any point. We recommend once the program's mostly done. But at any point when you're ready for security feedback, you can start to talk to us. If you get a review from a security firm and you make significant changes to the code base, you should of course get them retested. And it's probably going to cost a fraction of the initial engagement because there's not as much to do. You should be running static analyzers against your code base. There's a bunch out there. They're really easy to set up, and you could find something very easily. Running things like static analyzers before you get a security review is very helpful because bugs that you find before we get in there means that we can spend more time looking for other bugs. And reputable blockchain security firms are booked out for months. That's the case for us. So you really need to be thinking about getting your security review early in the process. I don't think any of the firms will be annoyed if you come to them too early, but it happens all the time that we get people coming to us and they're like, oh, we want to release next week, but we don't have a slot, unfortunately. So either the project gets delayed or it doesn't get reviewed. So think ahead. All right, finally, I want to talk a little bit about SEAL. This is a very exciting initiative. It is by Sam Sun. He's the head of security at Paradigm, and he's a very notable, famous security researcher in Ethereum. So SEAL is a neutral alliance. It was established in 2023. Aims to be an authoritative voice on blockchain security across the whole crypto industry. It wants to be ambitious, practical, and impactful. So what's really interesting for your application, I think, is one is the SEAL 911. So that's a 24/7 emergency hotline via Telegram to help with incident response, vulnerable disclosure, and anything like that. So if you notice that something is going down in your application, you think you're being exploited, you can reach out to SEAL 911 and get in contact with security professionals who have done this before. We can help you through it. And also, alternatively, if you found a vulnerability in a program, you can reach out and we can help with responsible disclosure. It's very important. Another thing that's really interesting, I think, for founders as well, is the idea of the white hat safe harbor agreement. So a white hat is a hacker that hacks for the purpose of good. So for an example is I find a protocol on the blockchain. It has a big vulnerability in it. So I go and I exploit that vulnerability, take the money, and then find the founder of that project and give it back to them and say, all right, you give it back to the users. So what I did is I found something and I was the first one to exploit it. I took the money and I gave it back. So that, I would say, is a morally okay thing to do. The problem is that isn't legally okay. It might be that the founder is a bad guy and just wants to grief me for doing that because I should have just stayed in my lane and not embarrassed him. Or it might be that the police take that on themselves and think, you know what, that guy shouldn't have done that. Let's send him to jail. So a white hat safe harbor agreement is something that projects can implement to say they can put out the details of what a white hat is. They can outline it and say, if you do this to us, you are operating within the bounds of our protocol and we accept you. So that means that white hats can feel safe to be white hats, safe from you and safe from the police. So this is definitely in your interests as a Web3 company. There's also war games with Seal. So war games are preparing your organization for when shit hits the fan. So that's like faking an attack and then seeing how you can respond to it. Extremely useful. Helps you stay calm, helps you understand what you're going to do, helps you make decisions. It's very, very easy to make a very bad decision when shit is hitting the fan. And finally, we have Seal Isaac. So this is a threat intelligence program. It's in beta now. You can sign up to it, and it gives you information on like what threats are out there, what's going on, how you can respond to it, and how you can protect yourself. Alrighty, that is the speech. My name is Paul Hauner. Thank you so much. Slides were by Mehdi. If you want to reach out to Sigma Prime, you can find our website, or you can reach out to me, GitHub, Twitter, anything with this handle. Thank you.